Welcome to User Friendly 2.0 with host Bill Sikkens, Technology Architect.
And this is User Friendly 2.0. I am your host, Bill Sikkens. Welcome to this week's show. Believe it or not, it's time for our summer Q&A, which means we're about halfway through the year, I guess. Bill, Gretchen, you're here. Where are we at? Yeah, it's about halfway through the year.
We are halfway through the year.
There's 52 weeks usually, right? And it's amazing some of the statistics we talk about that people will argue with you on in the comments. But it is still 52 weeks in the year, as far as I know, at least in most countries. And week 30 would mean that we're past the halfway point. We're in
the seventh month.
Yeah.
So we are halfway.
Yeah. Usually there's 12 months in the year too. It's just amazing that we're already there. So that being said, it is time for our Q&A. Now, what we do to put these together is we take the questions that you've sent over the last usually quarter, maybe a little bit longer, depending on what's going on and just the time, because we don't do these, based on a clock. It's just usually spring, summer, and fall, or give or take. So this will be actually the last about 4 months of questions that have come in. And then we go through them and create the questions that we answer based on the general content and quantity of the questions that you have sent in, or if it's unique, or if the three of us decide we want to cover it. So that's very subjective criteria there, but hey, it works, right? Especially that last part.
Okay, I'm still thinking about the previous thing. We could use the solstice and as the middle point of the year.
Well, I mean, they used to do it that way, right? So
maybe it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
probably
back in June, So
yeah.
Anyway, so we'll be doing that in the second half. We're going to be talking about Bill, what is it? Gamer Awards?
Yeah, the Ennies.
Yeah, the Eddies, something that I never heard of, and being that I've done role playing since longer than I've been alive, I probably should have. But I'll learn about this along with everybody else today. So anyway, what do we have in the news? Let's go ahead and just jump right in.
All right, this sounds like something out of a James Bond movie. FCC approves giant mirror satellite designed to beam sunlight to the Earth after dark.
Yes, and the name of this satellite has like dots over letters and hyphens and things, so I'll do my best on pronouncing it, but it's Reflective Orbital is the company, and the satellite or the program is like Earadil-1. Somebody that speaks whatever language that's in can correct me on that, because I know I'm not saying it right. And yeah, you're thinking about like a Montgomery Burns thing out of The Simpsons, supervillain scenario here. And there is a part of this that it is definitely, let's just say, controversial. Now, a couple of things that came to mind when I saw this when it came out was, number one, the FCC doesn't usually approve satellites. So there was a little bit of a conflict there. And the other thing of it is the way this was being described is actually much bigger than what they're trying to do here, at least for the moment. So the approval is for one demonstration satellite, not a constellation. The FCC approval covers the spacecraft's communication systems. The rest of it is outside of their authority. So that's basically what's going on here. So what we're dealing with is an 18 by 18 meter, 59 by 59 foot reflective film. It's launched. It unfolds once it's into orbit. And basically what the idea is it will reflect sunlight back at night to a solar farm. So the illuminated area would be about 3 miles wide.
Okay.
As it moves, right? So
that makes a lot more sense. You know what I'm saying?
Think of it like less like a laser pointer and more like steering a moving patch of daylight at night. So it does definitely have that sci-fi feel to it, but it's not we're illuminating the night all of the time. So one of the things that's happening is we need more energy, and by the day that goes on, we need more energy, and a lot of the technologies that we're starting to use are reliant on this. But what's happening with the solar farms, which is a very good way to produce energy during the day, right? At night, they don't work because of the nature of what it is. So they either become unstable going into the grid, or you have to have battery storage, which is the way they're doing it now, to where it will balance out, that type of a thing. But doing this would allow for the solar farms to work at night. So some of the things that this could be used for, being that the beam is controllable, is that, or other things like, say there's an earthquake And right now, the emergency responders bring in all kinds of floodlights and stuff like that. You could use this to illuminate the area that need a rescue or that kind of a thing. That kind of stuff. So there is definitely, conceptually at least, an idea of this that would be somewhat beneficial. Now, I remember a number of years ago, there was a proposal that was rightfully defeated in Congress. And in fact, some individuals offered to take these out of the sky if they were actually launched, was the idea of putting up big reflective things that would be like a McDonald's logo that you would see at night.
Yeah.
And this is not that. I think it's important to put that out. And plus, as far as renewable energy goes, you would be producing light without creating, pollution. So the astronomers are against this because additional stuff in orbit, especially additional reflective stuff, makes it even more difficult than it is now to see the sky at night, So we're already having this with Starlink and some of the other satellite constellations that are out there that are reflective. Now, what they're doing with a lot of those satellites is painting them or creating the housing on them in a way that they don't reflect, which does help. But the nature of how something like this would work is it has to be reflective. Mm-hmm. So artificial nighttime light can affect wildlife. There's a lot of things like that. But again, you're talking about a small area that it is focused on, not like the entire part of the Earth that should be dark. So that does make it a little bit different on that type of a thing. And there's a lot of things that go on here about, some of the bad things that could happen if we had sunlight all night. But then again, this is not sunlight all night. And this is the part where I think I get a little bit of a concern. Trying it out as a proof of concept with one reflective satellite, okay, that's not a big deal. But what they're talking about is up to 50,000 of these by 2035 in orbit.
What?
Yeah.
We don't have enough space up there. That's not wise.
Whether it's technically or even economically achievable remains to be seen. But, so it's an interesting thing. And I think that, like we've talked about, global mirrors from science fiction before we were recording James Bond villains. I know somebody brought that idea up, but again, this isn't that. But we want to be careful with what we're doing, because I think this falls under the question of just because we can, should we? Now, if it's a system that is usable and doesn't create a lot of problems and can eliminate the need for, carbon fuel at night and that kind of a thing, then there might be a good location for it. 50,000 of them? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so.
How to stop ChatGPT from ruining how you think.
Yeah, so I asked ChatGPT to summarize this for me, and I was told that not to worry about this. So, I guess we don't have to worry about it, right? So this is something, we've talked about this give or take in the past, and AI is something that's a little bit different than a lot of the technology we've brought into place in the past, because it actually can do so much more that, while it's amazing what it's capable of, it can create problems. And the thing of it is here is that you have to look at this as a tool, but you don't want to allow it to replace your thinking, right? Yeah. So it's either we all become cyborgs, get AI built in, and then that would solve the problem, or we have to keep ourselves able to think independently. So look at it from this standpoint, and I think this is a good comparison for it, is the idea that, a long time ago, like 15 years ago or before, if you wanted to get somewhere, you would have a map, and you would unroll the map and you would figure out where to go. And today, a lot of people would not know how to use a map because of GPS. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is something that is kind of a comparison. And when you ask your question, well, does that mean that we shouldn't use global positioning technology? Well, no, of course not. But when you go to cognitive surrender, in other words, you're letting the computer take over something that you should know how to do, that's a problem. So, from that kind of a standpoint, I think we're looking at the same thing with AI.
I think anytime people allow something or someone to do the thinking for them, you're going to have trouble.
Yeah. And that's exactly what's happening here. And because AI is one of the first technologies we have that's actually able to do that in a way, it is creating that kind of a problem. Now, I was thinking about this, and I use AI. I'm a programmer, and as we've talked about, obviously we do our show. But I don't ever say, let's say, for example, we're going to produce next week's episode of User Friendly and go to an AI and say, give me my script. And that's kind of what people are concerned about, is that kind of a switch. Now, what I will do with it is once we've determined topics and various types of things like that, I might go into AI and, hey, can you give me some points on this given topic? And then it does. And then you check those points to make sure they're valid, because AIs do hallucinate sometimes. Mm-hmm. That's not a problem, I don't think. I'm still driving. But I also have had an example, I've talked about this on the show before, with a company that I work with, that we got a function for some computer software we were doing backup from a developmental team that we had an intern doing the work on. Great code, looked good, ran well, and we need to have him replace some things in the layout, make some stuff bold and that type of a thing, and realized very quickly he had no idea how to do it because AI had built the entire function. And this is a problem because you have an intern or an apprentice that is supposed to be learning how to do the technology on their own, and they're not, because they're doing it this way. Now, the company that I work with, the person that runs it, tries to have a little different approach and not think of the employees as copy machines, which a lot of them do. Ended up sending this guy to a programming boot camp, came back, and actually now is really contributing in a very positive way. Still uses AI. I use AI when I code, but I don't use AI to write my code. I use it to, do certain things within it to make it faster. I am not a good UI developer, user interface developer. And the look and feel of software is very important. So that's a place where I will write all the functionality, have it work, have some sort of a UI, and maybe run it by AI. We've got our acronyms today. User interface, run it by artificial intelligence. And say, hey, can you take a look at this? And number one, catch anything that might be wrong in the code, which where like a hacker could get in or something. It happens. So it's a security thing. Good tool for that. And it'll go through and make it look like I actually have some kind of an art gene in my system, which I don't. So these are things, but I'm not saying AI write the software,
This also goes into like education and writing. When I was in high school, we had to write papers. When I was in college, I had to write papers. And I could easily see there are some softwares that are really good at proofreading your work. And I'm terrible at punctuation. And the AI software that I've been using is great, but sometimes it'll make suggestions and I'll read through it and it'll change the meaning of what I'm trying to say. Right. So if you're using an AI software to edit or correct your papers, don't just sit there and think that everything it suggests is good, because it may change the actual meaning of what you're trying to say or what you're trying to prove in the paper. Yeah. You have to take control and you have to read through it very carefully and decide whether those suggested changes are a good idea or not. Okay? So it's just one of those things.
You're still in the driver's seat. You're still authoring the content. And again, you're using it that's like a spell checker or something. It's more complicated or more capable, but it's definitely the same thing. And that's exactly the situation. But you have the other side of the coin here, and this is where it's becoming a problem, where there are entire books that are written and have illustrations and stuff, and the whole thing's done by AI. And then the people are told, no, I wrote this. And you can still tell, that's one thing. You're not able to hide it completely. But now you've just taken the human completely out of that. If I'm not going to buy your book, if I want to know something in that way, I'll just go online and ask Gemini to summarize it for me and get the same response. And I know it's being generated by AI. There's no, cloak and dagger there.
Here's another point. Well, then the AI should have gotten the credit for the book as the authorship, not the human. It's like you're stealing artwork and ideas from another entity, I guess you would call it. It's still theft.
It's a win, not an if, that AI passes the, what is it, a Turing test? Am I saying that right?
Turing.
Test, and is sentient. Then you're going to have a whole other situation there because you really are stealing from another author's work. It's a whole different kind of concept, very sci-fi, but we're heading that direction.
All right, here's some more space stuff. NASA's Dragonfly clears key tests as Titan rotorcraft takes shape.
Well, that sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So, kind of think about it from this standpoint. And I'm trying to summarize these a little better because some of these stories are really cool, but you can't talk about them in 5 minutes. So think of it this way. NASA is building a helicopter to fly on a moon nearby, but a million miles away. I don't know how that's nearby. That would be far away in my book, where it's minus 290 degrees. Gasoline falls from the sky as rain, and there are lakes, rivers, and seas made up of liquid methane instead of water. Not a vacation spot I'm planning to go to anytime soon.
Nope.
And what this is Titan, the moon Titan. Dragonfly is a mission to Titan to be able to kind of do like what we're doing with Mars. The biggest difference here is instead of being a rover that goes around on the dirt, it flies. That's where the helicopter analogy comes from. And being able to do that, you're using physics in your favor, except instead of using them against you like you do with the ground, where you have all kinds of friction and stuff like this. Flying through the air allows you to be able to do a lot of things a lot easier, a lot less fuel is used. You can get from location to location faster. There's a lot of things that are about just making this workable where it wouldn't be the other way around. So think of it this way, eight rotor idea, like kind of like a drone, but about the size of a compact car. And on that, you have instruments that can do chemistry, weather, and all that kind of stuff. So that's what this is about. The milestone that we've gotten to here is something that's really kind of cool, that a big component of this has been finished and is being brought to the physics lab. And that'll be the next step in getting that put into the structure and being able to start testing that out.
So this is science fact, not science fiction. I think I referred to it as science fiction, unfortunately.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. FBI Las Vegas speaks on threat of 764 terror network in Nevada.
Well, criminals are going high tech, and this is getting a little bit scary. And when you look at the different things that are happening here, it is definitely something to be concerned about. 8 News Now reported on this in Las Vegas. It's regarding a terror network called 764 that's been identified as a terror organization that's operating in Nevada. And what's happening here that really has come out from this is recruitment into the criminal organization. In the past, when these type of things happened, there had to be a physical connection. Now, a teenager can be recruited from their bedroom. And what's happening here is groups like this are using social media, gaming platforms, and so on to locate isolated or vulnerable young people who might not get out and socialize otherwise, and often without ever meeting them in person. And there's a lot of victims and offenders that are being generated from this. The internet has basically removed geography from criminal recruiting. So platforms that are being used are things like Discord, Telegram, TikTok, Instagram. And not that these platforms are somehow criminal platforms. They're not. Millions of people use them every day safely. It's just they're being manipulated in a way to get to people that they wouldn't otherwise be able to get to. And then they're using social engineering, where the idea is that the hackers break into people. I mean, that's kind of an interesting way to look at it, but that's what's happening here. That's nothing new, but they're getting a lot better of it. Instead of stealing passwords, they're stealing trust. Interesting thing about it, some of the topics we've talked about here, is AI is not really involved in this. This is just more psychology, at least yet. AI is not involved in this. So definitely something to be aware of. And parents do need to know what their kids are doing online. And sometimes it's hard to do. It's technical to be able to do it, but it is definitely important as something to be concerned about with keeping your kids safe.
And now for something a little less scary. Register for Robotically Manipulated Payload Challenge. What's that about?
All right. So first of all, NASATechLeap.org is the place online to go get the detailed information about this. And what this is a program from NASA that is inviting you to participate. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So what's happening here is right now there's a problem, more than one in space, but there's a problem in that you shoot up a satellite, it does its thing for a limited period of time, and then it basically dies. And when that happens, it either falls back to Earth or it becomes space junk and is put out in a parking orbit. And the problem that this is creating is that it's a lot of debris and a lot of cost wasted because you can't upgrade or repair anything while it's in orbit. And this program hopes to change that. So comparison here would be something like if you had your car, buy a new car, and you drive it and the brakes need to be replaced. And instead of doing a brake job, you throw it away and buy another one. But that's what's happening in space. So the challenge is to come up with ways here to be able to create robotics, to be able to manipulate things in space, to do stuff like upgrade a camera or repair something that's gone wrong or even change a battery. So that's what we got going on here. And it's something that if you're interested in, go ahead and again, check it out at nasatechleap.org.
And the red deadline is July 29th?
Yes, Gretchen, thank you. This is a timely thing. You got to apply by July 29th. All right, now it's time for something completely different. You know, they should put that in a TV series someday. We're going to talk about something called the Ennies. Bill, take it away. What are the Ennies?
To quote the website, the Ennie Awards are an annual fan-based celebration of excellence in tabletop role-playing gaming. It is a fan People's Choice Award for tabletop gaming. It goes on every year, and currently voting is open. So if you have a favorite tabletop RPG that came out, third party usually, you can go and vote for it.
Cool.
Now, this sounds amazing. I had never heard of this.
No, me neither.
But it sounds like this isn't the first year, right?
No.
Yeah.
It's been going on for quite a while. I can't remember how many years, and I probably could look it up here, but
it just shows how on top of that I was. But anyway, no, it's a cool thing though. It's a neat idea because there's a lot of third-party companies that develop role-playing games, modules for role-playing games, all this kind of stuff that sometimes do a much better job, in my opinion, than some of the mainstream stuff. And they have a hard time getting their stuff out there. So seems like it would be a very good way that if you run into something and you like it, you can go vote for it and let the other people know that it's a good idea to test it out.
Oh yeah. Right now you can go vote for Legends of Vantress's Crooked Moon or Daggerheart if you're fans of those systems and resources, along with a lot of other stuff that's out there.
Do you have any favorites?
Crooked Moon.
Yeah, I can't say I'm shocked to hear that, but no, it's really cool. Okay, so again, where do you vote?
Ennies-awards.com.
ENNIES?
ENNIE-awards.com.
Okay, so no S. ENNIE-awards.com. All right, we'll get it out there. So yeah, check it out and go to userfriendly.show. Let us know who you voted for, which system you voted for in this case. We love to hear about this because I love it where you have this grassroots type stuff associated with stuff that's big business to allow the indies to be able to get out there and show their stuff. And some of the things developed by independent creators, role-playing games, video games, and other things is absolutely amazing. And I'll just close up with this comment that in the retro computer community, Commodore 64, Atari, all this kind of stuff, the games that we have today that are developed homebrew by independent developers are actually better than the commercial software ever was. This is User Friendly 2.0. We'll be back after the break.
Have you seen him? He's from the future. He's got a really big computer. And he uses it every day. And he uses it in every way. What's he use it for? I'm not that sure because it uses future technology.
Welcome back. This is User Friendly 2.0. Send us your questions. Send us your comments at userfriendly.show. It is your one stop for letting us know what you think, what you'd like to have us cover, and the ability to play back old episodes. One note on this is we've been having some issues that if you go to your smart speaker and ask to play User Friendly, you might get the wrong one. So make sure it's User Friendly 2.0, the real one, and to be sure you get it, you can go to our website, userfriendly.show. All right, well, as we talked about in the beginning, today is the day that we answer your questions. So I guess we need some questions.
What is crowdfunding?
All right, so if this sounds familiar because you listened to our previous Q&A, it is. This is the next question we'd actually talked about there. But we've had a lot of additional questions come in on this, and I think it's because of some of the things that are going on. And the answer to the question of what is crowdfunding is basically these are platforms, and there are different ones of varying degrees of suitability, to where you can have something like a project, or you're trying to raise money for an event, or even some people are trying to raise money for their next vacation. these different type of things go out there, and you can put up a project, and you hope that people will support your project. So in the ones that are dealing with manufacturing some new kind of product or service or that type of a thing, these ones are interesting because most of the time they work out pretty well, but we can all tell stories, which we will in a minute here, of sometimes where they don't. So when you put up money for a given reward, it's important to know that is not guaranteed.
It's like doing the stock market.
Yeah, kind of. I guess that would be an interesting comparison.
I mean, because you could lose your money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what happens a lot of the times is I have this great project, things like I'm going to make a movie or I'm going to make a AAA video game for $50,000, that kind of stuff. So when looking at these things, you want to check it out to make sure that you don't get scammed. And there's been a lot of times where it's gone out, they've raised money, and then they don't provide the award. Now, fortunately, this is not the majority. Most of the crowdfunding stuff's on reputable platforms, funds independent developers and things like that wouldn't otherwise be able to get their product to market. And I've seen some really cool things with that. But that's basically what this is and what crowdfunding is.
Is there a difference between crowdfunding sites?
Short answer is yes. And a big, big yes on that. So the biggest one probably is Kickstarter. It's the oldest one that is operating that's considered reputable. And they're a site that actually, as far as these things go, is pretty good. It's still possible to not get what you're supposed to get, but they do disclose right on top of it if you're not guaranteed anything. And the other thing they do is tend to watch for scams and take them down, and are pretty good about that. I think the next one would be Indiegogo, which is a little less in that context. They do watch for scams and take them down, but they have a unique thing called flex funding that does not exist on Kickstarter. So basically, on most platforms, you set a goal. I want to raise $50,000 for doing whatever project. If you raise the money, you get it. If you don't raise the money, you don't get it because you wouldn't have been funded. So what flex funding is whatever amount of money they happen to raise, they still get it, whether or not they hit their goal.
Okay.
And you can see where that could be problematic, because if you don't have enough to do your project, well, so you want to watch for that. Then there's a number of other sites out there, some good, some not so good. And I've even seen ones where a company has decided that they want to raise money for something. They're not allowed for whatever reason on the bigger platform. So they create their own crowdsourcing site that looks like it, but you want to check those out, because if that's the only project on that site, that's probably a red flag.
Yeah, I think Kickstarter and BackerKit are the two that I really appreciate.
Yeah. What was the second one?
BackerKit.
Okay, that's not what I've used, but yeah, okay, yeah. And you can get a list of these and ratings like anything else just by searching for them. But check it out and do a little bit of research, and do research on the projects. And one of the other things you can look at too is the person that's got the project up, have they ever successfully had a funding project? Have they backed anything else? Check out social media. Look at if a website's provided, is all of the images on there AI generated? That's a red flag. You want to just make sure that it feels like they're actually trying to accomplish something and not just walk away with your money.
How to stop ChatGPT from ruining how you think.
Yeah, so we talked
covered this a little bit earlier.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about this in the news segment, and that's not formed as a question, so that wouldn't have worked on Jeopardy. But, deep diving is like we said before. You got to think of it like a tool, and like anything else, you trust it to the extent of what it's supposed to do, but you are the person in charge. You drive the project. You ask it for what you want it to do, but you don't ask it to do it for you. And these are two different things. And like we were talking about in the first segment, this is something that's becoming a problem, because AI is something that is the first real technology that's gone mainstream that can actually do enough to where it can replace your need to think about things. And we told some of the stories in the first segment on what we've run into this, but just, to kind of sum it up again, because we get a lot of questions on this, is ask AI what you want to do. It's an amazing tool. See what answers it gives you. Check the answers. Make sure the information is correct. They do hallucinate sometimes. And don't expect it to be able to do your project for you and have it be successful. And as far as things like artwork generation and that type of stuff goes, I use it to generate a picture of my role-playing character. I have no problem with that. I do not use it to generate something I'm going to publish. For one thing, having human designers do that, you're going to get a better product. You're going to be able to work with it better. And the other part of it is it's not fake, you know?
All right.
Yeah.
I have an old arcade game called Gyrus. Should I fix it? There is no video, or turn it into a multi-game machine.
Okay, so in my opinion, if you convert that to anything else, the arcade gods will come and smite you. Gyrus is one of the best, in my opinion, and most beautiful early arcade games. It uses chiptune. It's been considered one of the best ones for the music that goes along with it. I would love to find a Gyrus myself. They're a little bit difficult to come up with. And this type of a cabinet you would want to fix. So 10,000-foot answer to this is basically there are some games out there that are not collectible and, okay, they break down. You convert them into something else and you can put a Raspberry Pi or something like that in it and be able to run ROMs and have it be a lot of different games. And there are appropriate times to use something like that. But you would want to check out what the original game is and also what's wrong with it. If there's no video and it's plain headless, so you can hear the audio and everything else seems to be working, that means your game board's good and there's something wrong with the monitor. In this type of a game, and I don't like to do this unless I have to, but a lot of the CRTs are dying on us now, and this is a very common problem to have. So maybe look at going ahead and replacing that part of it with something modern, like a LCD, LED screen. You can get these for a couple $100 and they drop right in and makes the cabinet lighter and that type of a thing. But the other thing to consider is if you really do want to keep it original is do at least diagnose what's wrong with it. Because really, even with CRTs, as long as the tube and the flyback are still good, you can probably repair it and have it still work as the way it originally was. So it's just depending on the condition and what you're dealing with at the time. But this is one where you would drastically limit the value of what it is if you were to convert it. It's like the same thing with a lot of the original classics. Let's say you got a Wizard of War, and if you converted that, you probably need to not do anything with video games ever again, in my opinion. But that's an extremely valuable one, again, that is worth a lot more as the game than what it is if you were to try to convert it over.
Now, this is a callback to a news article we had before. You talked about Xbox laying off thousands of employees. Is Xbox being phased out?
Yeah, good question. We've had a lot of different variations of this that have come in, this kind of summing it all up. Is Xbox in trouble? Or, is it going down? Is Microsoft going to drop the project? All of these type of things. They are definitely changing what they're doing. But in my opinion, from everything I've seen on this, I don't think it's a bad thing. They're consolidating some stuff. Back in the last 10 years, they bought a lot of independent game studios and tried to make them work together, which is not something that's easy to do without changing the concept of how the studio worked. And if you try to do that, then why buy the studio? Just set up what you want under your own umbrella. Blizzard Activision is one of the bigger ones that was purchased by Microsoft. There are a number of other ones out there that they are starting to spin off back into independent studios again because this hasn't worked very well, or shut them down, or whatever the case may be. But in the case of Microsoft, it seems like they are selling that IP and not just trashing it, which is, in my opinion, a good thing. But at the end of the day, I think what's going to happen here is we're seeing the consoles and regular computers now getting to a point where they are pretty much equivalent in what they can do. Game consoles are unique in the standpoint that you develop software specifically for them. It runs on that platform. You don't have to worry about making it compatible with other things. So there are still advantages in that area. But on the flip side of it, you now have your computers plug into HDMI. They can do the same video output, that kind of a thing. But the second part of it that I think still makes consoles relevant is also the price. To get a good gaming machine is going to cost you, and Bill, correct me if I'm wrong on this, at least $3,000 more.
Yeah, $1,500 at least.
$1,500 would be minimal though, because your video card alone, if for a good one, could be that much.
Yeah.
And your video game consoles are, they've gotten more expensive, roughly, I don't know, around about $500 now, give or take, depending on what it is.
Well, projections have them going up to $1,000 for the next gen, but
I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows?
So that even starts to put it closer to a full computer, but there still is a bit of a difference. And I think there's also something to be said that you turn the console on, it does what it's supposed to do, and you don't have the problems that can be associated with running a PC and trying to get it, to work with different things. So are consoles still relevant? Yes. If something happens that we will be talking about in depth at a later time, like Sony really did do away with all of their physical media. Now, Bill, so for anybody that hasn't heard, there was an announcement made in the news by Sony that they're going to quit doing physical media of any kind by 2028. That would mean that the next generation of PlayStation would not have a media drive. Right now, you have that choice. You wouldn't have it anymore. But Bill, you said there's been a lot of pushback on that, I think.
Yes, a lot of people were boycotting and dropping their PlayStation Plus subscriberships, and so Sony's walking it back a little bit. But I don't know. It's a complicated thing about physical media. I think we have another question later on about that.
Yeah, we'll get into that in some more depth. But and I've done a 180 on my belief in that too. So anyway, but I don't think Xbox is going away. I think what they're doing is actually going to make it more streamlined. I think we're going to see them able to focus on specific games and make them better instead of being all over the place, and let the independent studios also produce for the platform and focus on what they're good at. So I do see this kind of down the road probably being a good thing.
All right. Is Ukraine really using video games to train drone operators?
Yeah, so we did a story on this recently, and we've had a lot of questions come in, and the answer to that is basically yes. Now, there's two different things going on here. There is software that's being used to actually train the drone operators, and then there's a game you can get from Steam called the Ukraine Flight Drone Simulator, about $30, and you can learn how to fly a drone, what it's like to do it, and with real video footage and some other things. I would imagine that some of the more clandestine things that they use are taken out of the software. At least I sure hope it is, because you can imagine the enemy is probably going to play this game too.
Oh yeah.
So far, Russia hasn't been able to fly drones pretty well, so hopefully they won't learn too well from this. But anyway, if I was Ukraine, I'd put a few things in the simulator that if you flew a real drone that way, it would create bad things happening. So, hopefully that's where that went with that. But in any event, that's just an opinion of mine. The game itself, I've tried. It is really good. It is a lot of fun. It's very realistic, along the lines of like Call of Duty and things, because there's actual video from real drone missions in it. And the way that it operates is basically the same way. I'm going to see if I can interface the controller for my drone into the computer over Bluetooth, because then I'd have the actual controls. I don't know if that's going to work. I will let you know if it does. But I do recommend the game. If you're into this kind of thing, it's actually a lot of fun.
Well, don't they run a lot of like simulators for things like aircraft pilots now? And
oh yeah,
my eldest stepson did it for his driving tests or something.
Hopefully he didn't learn on pole position. But anyway, no, no, simulators, because of the fact that virtual reality and even computers are like real reality now to a point. Flight sims have been out there. I mean, you can get Microsoft Flight Simulator for your Atari 130XE. That's nothing new. And these things have been used all over the place. The military even uses some of the like Call of Duty type games for training their soldiers. So the idea that this is a new idea, no. But I have not seen another drone simulator. I think it is a first for that.
Is it possible to turn off the monitor that is sending information to my vehicle's manufacturer?
Yeah, again, a lot of questions came in from this story, which was a few weeks back, maybe a few months back now. But so the kind of starting point of this, if you're not aware of it, is pretty much all, I'm not going to say all because there's probably a holdout somewhere, but pretty much all new vehicles have something called telematics or a variation of that. And basically what that is there's a cellular module in the car somewhere that's sending information back to the manufacturer on how you drive, where you go, all of these different type of things. That information in turn by a lot of manufacturers is being resold to third parties. And this has created some controversy and some problems, as you can imagine. One of the big ones is when your insurance goes up. Well, I haven't had an accident. I haven't had any kind of tickets. Yeah, but the information your car told us on how you were driving makes us think you're a higher risk. And that's exactly what's going on.
It turns your car into a narc.
It turns it into a narc. And The other part of it too is if the manufacturer is selling my information, I should be paid for that or have the opportunity to opt out. You don't. There's no way to go into the software and turn it off. And I, frankly, in my opinion, even if that was a thing, I don't think I'd trust it. So,
well, I would also question some of these telemetrics. Is that what you were calling them?
Mm-hmm.
The thing is what if you are driving in an area where you have to be aggressive to protect yourself and your car, and since they're not there, they're not going to understand maybe an acceleration, a deacceleration that was quick, or a shift left or right. They don't know what's going on, so they're making assumptions that might be unfair.
And that's a very big thing. But just a real quick aside on that, for our commercial vehicles, we have Progressive Insurance and we use Snapshot. It gives you quite a bit of a discount. But it's the same idea. It monitors how you drive. Now, the big difference here is this is optional. I can pay more money and not use Snapshot. So it does make a difference. But yeah, if you have say where you're hard braking because the guy in front of you came to a dead stop, well, yeah, hard braking is something that would create an issue with this. But if you didn't do it, you would have gone into the back of the car.
Yeah.
So there are times where now I will say Progressive also has built into the system a certain amount of these things that they consider to be real world. It's going to happen and it doesn't count against you. Now, if you did it a lot, then you might start to have a problem. So there is a kind of a variant for that. But in answer to this question, and again, this show is for entertainment purposes only. I am not recommending you do this, but you can go online and find instructions on how to physically disconnect the box from your car in most cases. But if you damage your vehicle and it can cause warranty problems and that kind of stuff, that is an issue. Now, on vehicles like Ford and a few others, it's very easy. It's just a matter of disconnecting a few wires and you can go online. Toyota, as an example, has made this more difficult, that if you disconnect the box, it also takes out this, I think it's the right front speaker and the window on the right front door. So you would have to know how to put a bypass circuit. Now, there's instructions on how to do that online too.
What about the Teslas? Does the car just die?
I am not going to comment on that because I think if you tried to bypass, I have a funny feeling the Tesla police would show up while you're starting to do that. And you're messing with the computer. This is now, I don't know. But I have not seen a way to do that on a Tesla. And Gretchen, I think you're right. I don't think it would run.
Yeah. It'd probably just die. Oh, okay. Here's our next question. What is happening with physical media?
Yeah, so we started to talk about this when we were talking about Xbox a little bit, and we're going to deep dive into this further. So again, we started to comment on the idea that Sony had come up with a statement that they're going to discontinue all physical media by 2028. And Bill, like you said earlier, there's been such a pushback that they may not do that now. But the thing of it is with this is I like digital content because I can use it anywhere I go. So I don't have to bring the CD with me. I don't, that kind of a thing. If I'm watching a movie, I can switch the televisions it's on. But where I have really changed my opinion on this is because of the fact that in recent years, number one, a lot of the platforms that were providing this have gone away, and what you paid for, you no longer have access to. Think Redbox as for example, and there are others.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The second part of it too is with modern equipment, you can get a physical copy of something, rip it or copy it off or whatever the case may be. I am not speaking to the legality on that, but I'm just speaking to the technical possibility of it. Put it on a central server. I use a Plex server that runs on a device I have here, and I can still have the best of both worlds. But the thing of it is the physical disc or cartridge or whatever it is something that you can hold in your hand. You can resell it if you want to. You can hang it from your rearview mirror in your car if you want to. The point of it is it's something physical that you have that is, quantifiable. Digital content, and again, comment if there's are exceptions to this. I haven't been able to find any. And Bill, you might be able to talk about this a little bit more than I can. But my understanding is once you download digital content, you can't resell it. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay. So you buy a game. If you get it on physical media, which, by the way, costs about the same amount as digital content now, too. I've noticed that. And you play it and you don't like it or you're bored with it, you can throw it on eBay, whatever, take it to GameStop or whatever you want to do with it. But the digital one that costs the same amount, you can't do anything with. And Bill, again, maybe you can speak to this. What happens if your console breaks down? Are you able to sign into the account and re-download it, or is it even locked out from that?
In gaming systems, yes, you can usually re-download it because it's account bound.
Okay. But if I wanted to take my game to your house and play it, I couldn't.
I mean, if you signed in your account and stuff, I believe you can.
Okay, and would that be a challenge or are the consoles designed to do that?
PlayStation is. I don't know about the others.
Okay. But even so, you're still locked into it, and it is definitely. I don't know. I like having the physical discs. They take up space and all the rest of it. But
I
I've
agree
kind of
with you.
back,
I have DVDs and CDs, and I don't want to make them go away.
And I've made a USB drive that I put in the car with the songs I like, and I also subscribe to Amazon Music, so I do stream it. It's not that I'm against digital platforms, but it is becoming something where it takes away your control of things that you're paying for, and to me, that's a problem.
I think it depends on the media. Is CDs and music and movies. I think physical media is very important because these streaming services and stuff will just take it away and it's gone.
Right.
In those medias, though, you are allowed to make digital copies. If I'm not mistaken by American law.
Yeah, right.
I don't know about in other countries.
Not speaking to the law, but I think you are right. From a layman's perspective, you have some right under the Millennium Digital Copyright Act to make a backup copy, essentially.
Correct. Video games, I have a different opinion on because the registrations and stuff like basically, even if you have a physical copy, they could take away your ability to upgrade it or update it and your digital rights. Your digital rights media or DRM. It has happened where there are physical discs of a game that you cannot play because they've just taken away the DRM for it.
Right.
So
digital rights management.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you have a physical copy of it.
And I think
the law needs to change for that. But
yeah, I think a point to speak to on that too is if you have an online game, eventually the servers are going to go away. It's not an if, it's a when.
Yeah.
And then it will disable the game. But I know James, who does the Vault, had purchased a game to review. It was terrible, but we couldn't resell it because it was a digital game, Correct. And in that case, having the disc would have been a good thing. But a lot of software, you have the situation, this has always been a thing where you activate it and you might not be able to activate it again, that kind of thing. And, all of that. So like you say, Bill, digital rights management plays into it. And the other thing of it is I've noticed a lot of games where you do get the disc, all the disc does is create an entry point to download the software online anyway.
Yeah.
So, which is another whole topic and another whole story. We should dive into that one of these days. So anyway, all right, well, we're out of time for our questions, believe it or not. So I will leave you with this. Userfriendly.show, like we said at the top, is the place to send in your questions. We love to get them. We love to answer them because this is a big part of how we do our programming. And we love to see what you like us to cover. Let us know what we should dig into more and let us know, what you're not too worried about. So until next week, this is User-Friendly 2.0, keeping you safe on the cutting edge.
User-Friendly 2.0, copyright 2013 to 2026 by User-Friendly Media Group, Incorporated. All rights reserved. The content is the opinion of the show's participants and does not necessarily reflect this station or platform. Requests for material use, interviews, disclosures, and other correspondence may be viewed and submitted at userfriendly.show.